Thank you, and good evening. I've been forbidden to describe this occasion as a straight talk from a bent speaker. So instead, we'll say it's like a consultation with a psychiatrist who is madder than you are. Because what I want to do is to cure you of your freedom. I'm convinced that it's an excess of freedom which has made everybody in the world so miserable. In England, I never have any difficulty persuading people that they're unhappy. The trouble comes when I tell them that they're free. Nobody seems to make any comparison between himself and somebody in the same circumstances in a time gone by. This amazes me. I come from a time when there was so little liberty that if a girl wanted to wear nail varnish, she had to leave home for good. And if a man wore suede shoes, moral obliquity written on every toe. 40 years ago, there would have been nothing for you to do but join the Foreign Legion. Now you all wear, do, say whatever you like. And in England, we enjoy the greatest freedom of all. We need never, never work. It's true, when we've used up the last possible grant for the last possible subject, we can go on to a thing called national assistance. Now, unlike others of my generation, I would be happy for all the people who find themselves in these blissful circumstances if I felt that they were happy. But wherever I look, people are not singing, they are shouting. They are not dancing, they are marching. They are not rejoicing, they are complaining. In fact, we can safely say that throughout the world, protest has become a game any number can play. One weekend in London, my landlady got into the wrong march. That'll show you what's going on there. So I must assume that what has made everybody in the world suddenly so angry is the element which has been added to their lives in recent times, their freedom. I know it's no good asking you to abide by laws handed down to you by your pastors and your masters and your elders and your betters. It's too late for that. So what I think we need is chains of our own making. Now, however heavy these may be, they will never feel as irksome as limitations placed on us by others. Not any old chains. What we need is a system. And the system begins with each of us trying to decide what it is that makes him the way he is. It involves a journey to the interior, not altogether a pleasant excursion, because as well as totting up what you consider to be your assets, you also have to take a long look at what your friends call the trouble with you. Nevertheless, the journey is still worth making. Indeed, we might say that the whole purpose of existence is to try to reconcile the glowing opinion we have of ourselves with the terrible things that other people say about us. And the synthesis of these two opposite opinions will be your identity. But that's not quite enough. It's like your fingerprints. These two are your very own, but if they are discovered, they may be used against you. Therefore, you have to polish up your raw identity until it becomes something glittering by which you are prepared, by which you are proud to be identified, and with which you can do barter with the outer world to get from it what you want. I won't say what you deserve, because if we all got what we deserved, we would starve. And this polishing up process will give you a set of rules of your own choosing, which will make your days so formal that compared with them, the life of a Trappist monk would seem like an orgy. Indeed, your style will become like a religion. You will be able to consult it in all moments of doubt. You will always be able to say in any situation, is what I am doing or saying or even wearing compatible with my chosen image of myself? I know I'm rattling on about problems which by world standards would be considered trivial. This I understand. But I do so because never a day goes by, well, never a month goes by without someone coming to me and saying, oh, you do have a nice life. Me? This would be a reasonable remark to make if I lived as all of you do, in mansions riddled with standard of living. But I don't. I live in one room which has never been cleaned in 35 years. And that brings me to my first message of hope. Never sweep the place where you live, because after the first 4 years, the dirt doesn't get any worse. It's just a question of not losing your nerve. I'm sure I'm right about this. The other day, a woman said to me, no wonder you're nice to everybody. You never do any housework. So now it would seem that all the women in the world are in a blind rage by 10:30 in the morning. I'm only telling you these things so as to set you free from these boring domestic rituals. I want to give you a little time during each day when you stop thinking about other people and start thinking about yourself. When you give up looking outward and begin to look inward, so as to decide who you truly are and where you're really going. And now the next thing that my visitors say is, oh, you do know such wonderful people. And I do. But this also would only be a logical comment if my room was stuffed with people of wealth, substance, influence. And it isn't. It's crammed with the riffraff of London. And that brings me to my second message of hope. Never try to keep up with the Joneses. Drag them down to your level. It's cheaper. And then I'm asked, where do I meet these wonderful people? And I say, as a rule, in cafes. And in the days when layabout cafes were still open, those marvelous places where you could sit through lunch and tea and supper with 1 cup of coffee. I used to offer to take my friends to one, but they always uttered the words, of course, when we get there, you'll have to tell me what to say. I hope I'm painting for you a thoroughly depressing picture of someone who seems to be living like a kidnap victim, in unwanted and unnecessary isolation, only a few yards from where the traffic of the world is going by, with nothing more substantial boarding up the windows than self-doubt. The words, you'd have to tell me what to say, are a key. They show us that we are not dealing with a dreary old search for true love. The person who goes to cafes in the hope of making friends doesn't have to think what to say. He has to learn how to listen. We'd all like to have friends, but if it means you've got to listen, the price is ridiculous. So what does he want? As I see it, he longs for somewhere to go. And when he gets there, for somebody to be. But who? When modern man looks round in search of a destiny, nothing presents itself to him as it did when I was young, as being suited to his age, appropriate to his sex, befitting his station in life. Nowadays, whichever direction he looks in, his eyes run to the very limits of the horizon. He finds himself in a landscape without signposts, without milestones, without roads. The sheer vastness of the opportunities that lie before him may make him feel small. Now, if we are going to develop this lifestyle, we must banish forever all thoughts which are self-diminishing. we mustn't imagine when we make this journey to the interior that anything we discover is too trivial or even too distasteful to present to the world. The curiosity of the neighbors about you is a tribute to your individuality, and you should encourage it. Never try to defend yourselves. I'm appalled by the lust for evasion, which seems to be absolutely everywhere, even among actors, who presumably are a nation of exhibitionists. Yet even they say that they want to draw the line somewhere. The Burtons, Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, were so great that they brought style to marriage. And then they brought style to divorce. But even they expressed the fear that the press photographers of Rome would take pictures of them in the WC. Now, the way to deal with that problem, if you think it is one, is not to build a higher and higher wall round your villa, but to learn to urinate with style. All concealment is wrong. If there were none, half the problems of the world would disappear overnight. There would be no snooping, and therefore no fixing. There would be no blackmail, and therefore no fear in the world other than physical fear. That wouldn't be a bad start. And not only is all secrecy a sin, but it also isn't going to work. My spies tell me that there are already in existence machines which can collect and tabulate all the relevant detail about the private life of everybody in this theater, and can then condense it and store it forever in a space that big. Now, if this can be done, it will be done, because machines are greater than men. If you doubt this proposition for a moment, let me tell you about the atom bomb. It wasn't built by a wild fanatic trying to bring the vengeance of an angry God onto a wicked and adulterous generation. That means you. No, the bomb was made by a man with a noble forehead and silver hair, sitting in the middle of an American desert and cutting up the atom while saying, "Pity." Bang! So now we know, whatever you hoped, whatever you dreamed, the machines will triumph in the end. And if this is so, our attitude toward them should be existential. Do you understand that word? An existentialist is simply somebody who realizes that he can only exercise his free will by swimming with the tide, but faster. So if the machines will triumph in the end, why don't we make ourselves over to them from the very beginning? And the bomb is not all. By 1984, riveted into the wall of every home in America will be a one-way television screen through which you will see nothing, which might be a relief. But through it, you will be watched by Big Brother. Now, George Orwell, who foresaw this situation and who wrote 1984, he became completely neurotic about it. But why? I don't know how things are in Los Angeles, but in London, we waltz round the city with half our hair painted pink and the other half painted green, jingling with amulets, razor blades, safety pins, creating no sensation whatsoever. And when we get home, we feel thoroughly defeated. But now we know that in less than 4 years' time, when you get back to your room, you will still be of abiding interest to somebody. The president will care. Now, all you have to do to get this situation onto your own terms is to decide what image of yourself you are going to present to his eternal scrutiny. It isn't difficult. No alibis are acceptable. I say this because whenever I suggest to anybody that he should develop his lifestyle, he immediately says, I'm not wise enough, witty enough, handsome enough. Beauty is a complete waste of time. Because even now, and even here, miles from the Mediterranean, without even knowing it, we still cringe in the dreary shadow of classical ideals of beauty. The Greeks were mad about the human body, so much so that during its heyday, Athens must have looked like an outfitter's window during a weaver's strike. But it was no help. Not one of the great classical statues has the least physical individuality which would make it desirable or even interesting. So beauty you will never need. But I can give you further proof. There was once a man whose name was Mr. Tillet, but he was known as the Angel. Now to me, Mr. Tillet's life is a positive parable of style. He took that which made him so like himself, regardless of whether it made him better or worse than other people in their eyes, and he put it in its appropriate setting. He put it where it would do the most good. And that, as I see it, is what all of us have to learn to do. Are you with me so far? Do you understand this argument? I've been forbidden to rattle on about the amount of money that Mr. Tillet made. I've been told that I equate wealth with style. I don't, but I would say this. To a physicist, money would be the solid state of style. Otherwise than that, there's no connection between the two. And so you see, however grandiose the style you may be about to choose for yourself, you won't need any actual money to support it. And furthermore, you won't need talent. Now, I never saw Sarah Bernhardt on the stage, but I have seen a strip of movie. It wasn't her acting that made Miss Bernhardt divine, it was her nerve. Oh, and it was the coffin she slept in at night. And it was the cheetah that dragged her on a gold chain through the rooms of her house. Not that I'm suggesting that any of you should build a coffin, nor that you should keep a pet. We've got enough dumb friends without them. I'm only explaining that you won't need any talent in order to be able to project your chosen image of yourself. And nowadays you don't even need virtue. You no longer have to be an object of public veneration or even affection. If you like, you can be the focus of contempt or hatred. After all, as a test of whether you're still in touch with somebody else, being loved can never be a patch on being murdered. That's when someone really has risked his life for you. And if you've decided on depravity as the fluid in which you will suspend your monstrous ego, then you have the most wonderful examples before you, or rather behind you, because nearly all of them are in history. Now, quantity is not style. All the same, it's difficult not to be impressed, isn't it? Of an effect which I wouldn't advise any of you to attempt if you're just beginners. He reversed his style. Now, before you can do that, you must be absolutely certain that the image that you're taking up is more blinding than the one that you've abandoned. Now, I tell you this only to show you that style begets style. It's important because it means that when you've completed your image of yourself, you won't be surrounded by born receivers of the news. Your style will magnetize toward you other stylists, and you will be able to enjoy them and yourself. But of course, before you can build some such dizzy, dazzling structure as a monument to yourself, you must first get the foundations of your private life absolutely solid. From now onward, I think you should try to regard your home as your dressing room, and possibly your rehearsal room, and the world will become your stage. And at home, there must be nothing which doesn't represent the kind of person you have decided to become. It doesn't matter if your house is full of gadgets which are advertised on television every 20 minutes. They've got to go. And when you've got rid of the superfluous things, you start on the unnecessary actions. You should try to avoid all drifting and doodling and dawdling. And I used to say there must be no daydreaming. But when I was in St. Andrews University, a student said, but our style is built out of our daydreams. And this seemed to me a wonderful thing to have said. So now I've altered my opinion, and I think you're allowed your dreams up to the age of 25. Well, after that, they may become an alibi. You understand me? It's no good running a pig farm badly for 30 years while saying, really, I was meant to be a ballet dancer. By that time, pigs will be your style. And of course it follows logically that if there's to be no doodling and no dawdling, there are to be no evening classes. Do you have evening classes in Los Angeles? Well, it's all right if we're going to learn to sing and dance, because these are activities, the results of which you take out into the world with you and wear like a crown. People who've learned to sing will always have richer, rounder voices. And people who've learned to dance will always have bigger, bolder movements. But as for pottery and basket weaving, what good are they? On the way home, you might get into an argument with somebody at a street corner and be left saying, well, I can't express myself. You'll have to come and see my baskets. Good, we're agreed. They are not an adequate, they are not a communicable form of self-expression. And when you've got rid of the unnecessary actions, you start on the superfluous people. Now, I've been forbidden to say that each of you must live alone. I'm told that my attitude toward cohabitation is glib. So I will lean toward true love, sufficiently to say that if you're actually stuck with somebody, you better stagger on with them. It's the very best I can do. And the other people who visit me are women in middle life. And over again they ask me the same burning question. Is there life after marriage? The answer is no. It stands to reason. The constant proximity of another person will cramp your style in the end, unless that person is somebody you love, and then the burden will be unbearable at once. And if going around in pairs is a mistake, even worse is going around in a heap. Unless it's a heap you can rule, but never be seen tagging along at the tail end of a demonstration. Never be found hopping up and down on the fringe of a pop group. And above all, never, never strike. Do you have strikes in Los Angeles? Whenever I talk to men about strike action, they always say the same thing. It's all right for you. You don't have a wife and kids. I can tell from the sound of their voices that men regard a family as suffering incurred by accident and bravely borne. Even so, you must never strike. There is danger in numbers. They may nudge you into performing an action which is beyond the limits of your chosen style, and in public. The striker makes demands on the dreary grounds that he is one of many, all of whom are alike. But the stylist asks for what he wants in the name of the fact that he is unique, and everything in the world except diamonds, everything, even people, is subject to the law of scarcity value. As it becomes known through your style that deep down there is only one of each of you, then when the time for serious bargaining comes, you will win. But of course, it's not enough merely to get the foundations of your home life squared up. You also have to decide what you're going to do in the outer world. Now, some of you may be so old-fashioned that you still have jobs. If this is so, try not to get stuck in work where you deal with things. And I include the highest possible level of things. Books, paintings, sculpture, they are only objects, just like washing machines, but not so useful. Contrary to what romantic fiction may have told you, the life of a visual artist is a terrible thing. He stands alone all day in his studio, with his feet in a pool of turpentine, and his clothes encrusted with plaster. And that which he has created is taken from this place to a place of execution where it is hanged until it is dead. And all he can do is sit at home and read what it says in the art magazine. You must transcend your medium. By that I mean you must become more wonderful than whatever it is you make. You must be more significantly than you do. And if you possibly can, you must find a way of going to where the cheering and the acclamation are. I'll give you another example. Supposing I could drag onto this stage a huge, great piece of concrete with a hole in it. Everybody would say, it's a Henry Moore. But if I could drag on Henry Moore, none of you would know who he was. So all that chipping, all that chiseling, it's been in vain. You must have a job where you deal with people, because then every working, waking hour you will be secretly polishing up your techniques of self-presentation. There are plenty of such jobs available. There's preaching. Well, we don't have any stylish preachers around now, but there have been miracle workers. Before any of you were born, I saw Amy Semple McPherson. Well, if you don't want to be a preacher, you can be a teacher. Teaching is also very stylish because the material in which you're working is nearly always children and teenagers, and they have built-in publicity value. It doesn't matter whether you encourage them or repress them, you're in. And the greatest teaching stylist the world has ever known was a Mr. Braithwaite. He wrote a book called To Sir with Love. It caused a great sensation when it was first published. But in that book there is not one sentence about whether geography is easier to teach than history, or whether girl students learn faster than boy students. It is full of what the children, their parents, and the other members of the staff thought about the writer. So now we know that whatever anyone says they're teaching, their subject is always themselves. Teaching is for teachers, not for students. But if you can't be a teacher, if there's nothing that you know and they don't, then you can try politics. No. But if you feel that all this preaching and teaching and politics, that they're insufficiently physical to embody your idea of yourself. Then there's sport. Did you know that Muhammad Ali said, "The boxing was only to bring me to the people"? Think of that. All that diet, all that abstinence, all that downright suffering were only to raise him to a level from which he could still further extend his mammoth lifestyle. And if you think he hasn't done so, remember this. The fight before the final triumph was never once referred to as the contest that unknown gentleman won. It was always regarded as the fight that Muhammad Ali lost. So now we see that having a lifestyle doesn't even depend on doing things right. And even if you feel that you'll never get up early enough in the morning to be any kind of sportsman, all is still not lost, because the career which will give you the most direct route to self-fulfillment is the stage. And you must also remember, when you think about the stage, that the journey made by an actress from anonymity to stardom is the path that all of us must tread in one context or another. In the beginning of her career, an actress plays any number of very different parts, anything she can get, actually. And at that stage, she says that what she enjoys is the variety. Later on, it's noticeable that she plays fewer, larger, more closely related parts. Now, this is like attacking your identity Red Indian fashion. The circles of experimentation get smaller and smaller until you arrive at the center. In the second half of her career, an actress says that what she likes is the opportunity to study character in depth. She means her own. Because finally, with luck, she finds the one role which fits in every detail her dream of herself. Now, once an actress has discovered this ideal part, from that moment onward, she never looks forward. She's given up the mere profession of acting, and she has entered the profession of being. And this, as I see it, is where all of us in the end belong. Are you still with me? Do you understand this argument? Good, because there is a kind of glow that surrounds many of the people who've succeeded in synthesizing their professional and their personal lives. Joan Crawford. Now, I saw Miss Crawford in real life, again at the National Film Theatre. And I'd gone up a few steps in order to have a really good view. And for a second she saw me from those great alligator's eyes. It felt as though my image were being burned on the wall behind me. She was incandescent with belief in herself. And not only will having a lifestyle bestow upon you that massive self-confidence, but it will improve the texture of the entire world through which you move. People are always telling me we live in a sex-ridden society. I would have said that we lived in a world corroded with envy. And this notion I have no difficulty in substantiating. When I turn on my television set, what does it show me? Someone stomping through the streets, screeching for equal pay, equal opportunity. Equal is a dead word. Never take as your object in life the desire to be anybody's equal. Once you've entered this profession of being, you have become a professor of a subject on which you are the only living authority. What other people do with their style, with their life, will be a matter of great interest, but it won't be a cause for anxiety. In the last resort, it will not matter. In fact, every morning, you should say to yourselves, preferably aloud, other people are a mistake. No, I withdraw that remark. It might be thought sweeping. say to yourself, concern with other people is a mistake. I know this is not what most people try to teach you, but I want to spare you that heavily advertised scramble for mutual self-sacrifice, in which in the end you've never done enough. Altruism is a debilitating, fragmenting process, but the constant watchover, the constant improvement of, and the presentation of your idea of yourself to others, gift-wrapped, this is a unifying and an invigorating way of life, and it carries with it a special reward, an invitation to the party at the end of the world. That glittering function at which everybody will be speaking and nobody will be listening. And if you're armed with your style, you will be able to run toward that happy hubbub without the faintest fear that you may be out of your depth, without the faintest doubt but that you will shine. And more important than either of these, the burdens of your sorrowful and angry freedom. These problems of who to be and where to go and even what to think, they will fall away from you forever. Now, Andy Warhol is said to be famous for being famous, and doubtless the words were meant as criticism, but really they're the highest praise. They tell us that he will have something to say about lifestyle, and apparently he has. At least I have been told that he has promised to each of us a quarter of an hour of fame before we die. Now, all I am trying to do here this evening is to place into the hands of anybody who wishes to receive it the frame of mind, the philosophy, and the techniques by means of which he will be able to augment that mere moment of glory into a whole long lifetime. Now, we've gone on too long already. What I think we should do now is to have a pause and a good cry.